It's another week in sport, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ollie Wilson. And you're looking fresh, mate. Fresh. How you getting on?
Dude, we're just hitting the gym now. This is all the Argentina trip's about. It's about football, hitting the gym, enjoying the winter sunshine, and staying warm. But look, we know I'm in Argentina, Sam. I want to hear where you are because I know you've been gallivanting around North America, living it up in the Rockies. You've been checking out Banff in Canada, the idyllic
Yeah,
views.
yeah.
You must be somewhere right now, Sam, that is, it's got to be like a picturesque view outside of the window behind you. Where are you?
It's not bad. It's not bad. I'm in Winnipeg right now, the home of the Winnipeg Jets, who unfortunately got knocked out of the playoffs for the Stanley Cup. But yeah, I'm in Canada. First week in Calgary, very busy. A lot going on, obviously, in Calgary. So now it is relaxation time, front of the TV. Yes, the workouts because they have been well and truly neglected over the last week with food and travel. But yeah, I'm in Canada and I am enjoying sports still. There's no, we'll get on to the English side of sports a bit later that I wasn't enjoying. But yeah, Stanley Cup playoffs. So been watching that. Vancouver Canucks and the Oilers last night for me. So I was watching that. So yeah, it's been good fun out here, mate. But yeah, and just as many steaks as you probably, mate, because there's a lot of red meat eating here.
Well, I was going to ask, is it been a purely poutine and Molson diet for the first few weeks, and does that give you the energy to get up for the Stanley Cup playoffs in particular? I know we've got the kind of big all Canadian clash, if you will, taking place at the moment in the Stanley Cup playoffs with Vancouver. So, is that giving everybody the energy to get real rowdy in the bars where you are?
There's been a little bit of poutine, yeah, for sure. I would probably say a lot of maple syrup on my pancakes and bacon. That has definitely been happening. So yeah, I've been enjoying that probably more so than the poutine because I like it, but not an everyday thing, that's for sure.
It's very northern, isn't it? Chips and gravy, really.
Yeah,
Like,
you got to say it with chips and gravy. You got to say it
yeah,
with
lad.
yeah, exactly. You got to try and say it
I
that way.
don't
But
I don't want to do Sheephead any injustice from Soccer AM though by attempting it because only he really could do it. Although I actually know Joe quite well from work, and whatever you do, don't call him Sheephead when you meet him because he doesn't really like that anymore. I don't think, but he is one of the nicest guys I get to work with. I really enjoy when he's producing my games and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't dare venture into his turf of the Northern boys love gravy with the full accent and everything.
Honestly, that was Soccer AM at its peak. Honestly, I gotta say that show I absolutely adored. But yeah, I won't call him that. That's for sure.
Mate, in all seriousness, before there's loads of NFL stuff to talk about, right? And we're gonna get onto that
Mm,
in a second. But this series between Edmonton and Vancouver is fiery from what I've been
oh,
seeing. I haven't had a chance to actually catch a full game yet, but I've been seeing the highlights. Connor McDavid, 2 games ago, after the final buzzer, getting a double forecheck, one into the front, right in the face, and one into the back. This is
yeah.
like pure Canadian chippiness at its best. Everyone thinks they're super nice people, and oh no, you go in front of me, eh? And you get them on a hockey rink, and it's like, no, I'm going to rip his freaking head off, eh? It's like we're going to bury people. It's savage.
It's I've got to say we've been watching obviously a few games obviously and watch the Panthers and the pace of the game is not anywhere near what it is with this game. The Canucks and the Oilers. Watching it, it's fast, it's furious from the very get go. As soon as that puck is dropped, it's like okay, we're in for a game here. And each part of the series I've watched so far, it's been sort of the most entertaining. The thing is. There's a lot riding on it. I think, as I said, Winnipeg Jets, they were like favourites going into the playoffs. So everyone was like, oh, it's the Jets year, it's
Mm.
the Jets year. And obviously now going into this game now, it's like, okay, wait, the chances of a Canadian team lifting the Stanley Cup rests on someone in this game. And it's been 30 years, I believe, since a Canadian team has actually lifted it or something crazy like that. So it's like, hold on, we need to get someone in there. Let it be us. But yeah, there's a real rivalry right now between the two sides. I say it's great entertainment. And even if you've never watched hockey before, ice hockey before, this is the one to watch, and it will get you into the sport for sure. So yeah, I've been enjoying it. You can sort of feel that tension in the air for sure. But yeah, yesterday the series was leveled up with the Oilers obviously taking the win. They've had a few changes. They've changed up their goalie as well, which the number one goalie, as you probably call it, is sitting there like sulking on the side. Well, I mean, it looks like he is anyway. But yeah, great game yesterday.
I mean, that would have been a perfect segue into the Tottenham game if we weren't going to kick off with the NFL today, to be honest. But we'll part the
Please,
Premier League for a second.
just
But
yeah, let me have my moment for a bit. Yeah, still.
yeah, we'll keep the excitement going first. We'll start off full energy with the NFL, like these Vancouver against Edmonton games, and then you can come down later on, maybe when we get into the third period, talking about the Premier League and the title race, which I know
Yeah, yeah,
has hit you hard this week, mate. It, just quickly on the Canadian hockey as well. Like I I know you're in Winnipeg, and I've got friends up there. I've been to a few Winnipeg Jets games now. I was actually planning making a mini documentary about the Winnipeg Jets when they came back to Winnipeg and when they first went to the playoffs, because they were considered like a great young team then who could go all the way. And I just wanted to follow the first playoff series of the Winnipeg Jets back in Winnipeg with like a few GoPros, just going to different bars and filming the reactions of people in the bars, because it means so much to them. You're in the middle of nowhere almost. I mean, it's a 14-hour drive from Calgary
yeah,
across the plains to get to Winnipeg, and you're a long, long way from the East Coast and the bright lights of Toronto. Hockey's like the thing in Winnipeg that keeps people going in those torrid winters. And then similarly up in Edmonton, up in the north, a bit further north, northwest, and Vancouver's obviously the bit more glitz and glamoury on the west coast with the skiing and ice hockey and everything.
yeah.
But it's pure die-hard fandom, like we'd probably experience in the UK with football, with soccer, if you want to use the correct term for where you are at the moment. And there's
Yeah.
nothing better than seeing two Canadian teams really going at it, particularly now at the moment in the NHL. Feels like the gloves have just been off for like the last 3-4 months. We joked about it a few weeks ago on this podcast that
Yeah.
like fighting's kind of back in the NHL, but people are out there trying to cause bodily harm, and like you don't want to see people getting injured unnecessarily. You don't want to see dirty play, but that edge to hockey is back, and it feels a lot more raw these days. The NHL, particularly through these playoffs, especially, and it makes
It
fantastic viewing, whether
it
it's the highlights or
is.
not.
It is, but you know what? It's they're a little more disciplined. Like as in like the gloves aren't necessarily coming off for a full blown punch up. But boy, some of the hits, they're meaningful.
Mm.
Some of the cross checks, like you say, you've just mentioned one there, obviously after the whistle's gone, whether it is meant to happen simultaneously, the pair of them
The
getting the
high
one
low,
player.
yeah.
Yeah. Whether that was meant, who knows? But ultimately, yeah, it's fiery. And I think they're riding the edge before gloves are off. But ultimately, they're in the playoffs. They have to remain disciplined, that they aren't left without a player, or for the series. So
Mm.
yeah, it is good, but wow, yeah, I think people need to see it both in the season and obviously the outer season as well.
Yeah, it needs a good broadcaster in the UK to pick up the NHL ice hockey, so you can watch it and
That'd be
package up
awesome.
a few games into like some hour highlights or stuff like that. But that was one of the best summers I think I had in like 2011 when the Mavericks won the NBA playoffs, and I'm pretty sure it might have been Vancouver against Boston actually in the Stanley Cup Finals. And ESPN, as it was in the UK, just had one night NBA Finals, one night Stanley Cup, one night NBA Finals, one night Stanley Cup. And you just get up first thing in the morning after recording whatever had been on the night before and sit down and
Yeah,
watch it with your breakfast. It's the perfect way to start the day. Just sport every single day throughout the summer. It's
awesome.
glorious.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
not get let's not get sidetracked though. Let's get into, because I
yes,
could go down Canadian hockey all day, mate. But yeah,
yeah, yeah,
let's talk about the NFL, because news keeps on dropping, and I've genuinely got my phone up here with Instagram on it just to make sure that if anything else falls in the next few minutes while we're recording, as it tends to do, that we're up to
yeah,
date on it and we're catching it, because it's schedule release day, which I personally don't care about right now. But what I do care about is that the international series games have been announced. That's awesome. We'll come on to that. We've got an announcement about a new broadcaster entering the field for Christmas Day games in the NFL.
yeah,
We've got the
yeah.
Hard Knocks announcement of who's going to be involved. We get to look behind the scenes of the rumbling dustbin fire that is the New York Giants. News is dropping basically 24/7 today.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, it's like put my phone down. I'm like, what's this? Oh my God, yeah, next. And it's just been, yeah, it's been unreal. I mean, listen, the international games are awesome. I posted earlier, 2012, I'm at my first game. I remember, international fans, or I say international fans, the Americans, the other side of the pond. It's a gimmick. This won't last. Why are you taking a home game away from us? As fans, we're the real fans, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward to now where you're seeing die-hard fans traveling from the States to be part of this international series, new fans coming into the sport from the UK, Ireland, and Europe, free games in the UK. We've seen college ball in Ireland. There's one in Germany. Brazil have now got it. It's like this is part of the calendar. We're seeing international players obviously playing in the NFL as well. It was actually a bit of excitement. And I was like, oh, what teams are going to come over so we can actually see maybe new players. There's been some exciting rookies that are coming over. I tell you what I'm excited for. It's the Bears. I can't believe I'm saying it, but with everything that they've done, obviously in the please stay with me here,
You've been
Ollie.
on the
But
Crown Royal this morning or something. What's going on here? Like,
no, hey, there's some great players in that roster. It's going to be exciting to see. And obviously, it's amazing. I would say the journey that's come with the international series and the hard work that's gone across. And listen, people in the NFL, the hard work they've done, but there's yourself that's been covering the NFL for so long, to give people that coverage. I think it's only right that we get to see a lot of these games live now. So I'm excited. I am excited for these games for sure. A little devastated that the Cardinals aren't coming over because we had two chances. Our two of our away games would have been against obviously the Panthers or the Vikings, and we didn't get picked. So I'm a little bit devastated on that one. But yes, I digress.
you remember that episode of The Simpsons when the soccer game comes to Springfield and Homer's watching the TV advert and it's like, there'll be Ariagla, Ariagla 2, and Baguglia, and they'll all be signing autographs. That's what I feel about the Bears coming to London. It's like, there'll be this guy, and another guy. But they'll be here, so it's cool. No, the Bears have got a good hype train around them now. Obviously, wide receiver and a starting QB picked up in the first round with Caleb Williams going first overall. The hype around that's going to be fantastic. It'll be really interesting to see. He's a pretty enigmatic guy, reeks of confidence, has a lot of charisma. Has obviously been playing at one of the biggest sporting schools in the USA, and it'd be interesting to see his take on coming to London, if he throws himself into it, if he's one of the guys that's like, yeah, I want to go out and see stuff, or if he's, the rookie that's just, I'm learning, I'm here to focus. It's not about the bells and whistles of a London trip. That's actually going to be really interesting to me, seeing how a young first round, first pick QB deals with a trip to London, his attitude towards it. I have to say, Germany's been brought back down to earth with a bumper feel. No discredit to the Panthers. Obviously, that is an organization that is in complete rebuild mode still. Bryce Young, of course, had an injury-ridden season last year, and look, we'll see how he does in his second year, if he's able to make the jump, and if they've made the jump in general by getting some weapons around him and shoring up that team. Taking on the New York Giants, which this is no bias involved in this one, but you look at the Giants, and I know Giants fans that are pretty unenthusiastic about this team in general going into this year after what happened last season. And the roster moves that have been made this season. I mean, I joked to somebody today that the NFL Deutschland Instagram post showed a picture of Bryce Young and it showed a picture of Dexter Lawrence. And I was like, yeah, because everybody's going to the Giants to see Dexter Lawrence. He's an unbelievable player, but that's the face of the franchise. You paid Daniel Jones to be that guy recently. So Germany is getting, I feel, what a lot of NFL fans have seen from a lot of the UK games, which is as two sides that if things go right, there could be something special, but the initial reaction isn't like, oh my God, we've got the Chiefs against the Dolphins. It's the Panthers Giants, eh? Cool. Probably not high on the priority list.
Yeah, I hear that. But you know what? The German fans, I'll tell you what, are electric. I've got to say, they will make the atmosphere. I'm actually delighted it's back. at Munich. Frankfurt was good, but everything that you hear from anyone that was there at Munich, that atmosphere was unbelievable and hard to top. So and again, the Giants fans in Europe, there's quite a big contingent there, so I think they will obviously travel.
Too many.
The Panthers, yeah, maybe, yeah. The Panthers are an interesting one because they're not even in a. I can't even call it a rebuild right now because they're so far off it at the moment. But they can go in there with probably no pressures. It's probably actually a fixture that's probably quite good for them to be playing the Giants away from home a little bit. Bryce Young has got to step up this year, mate. He has to step up. Like I think he obviously didn't live up to anything that was expected last year. He got picked. You look at the QBs that were taken off the board afterwards. Obviously, what they've achieved. So he has to step up. You mentioned obviously about Caleb Williams. I'm looking back at Zach Wilson because we saw Zach Wilson come over to the UK as a rookie QB, full of confidence, full of beans. We were fortunate enough to see him in their sort of practice fields and obviously on and off that field as well. Looked very confident, assured of himself, and then he got onto that field and it was like, here we go, Houston, we have a problem kind of thing. So I think it will be interesting to see again, Bryce Young, second year, see how he obviously gets on. Daniel Jones has obviously done the trips outside of New York. He's been over to UK. How does he get on in Germany? I've got to say, the New York Giants, I am a little bit worried about in terms of what direction they go, because they've paid Daniel Jones, but there's still rumblings that he's obviously not the one. So,
Really?
what do they
I'm
do?
shocked. Shocked that people would think that. Can't
Um,
believe it.
hey, he's a top guy, Danny Dimes. Come on, yeah.
Get the veto back in there. I want the veto in Germany. Hey.
No. I don't want Danny. I don't want Vito. I want the agent back. That guy came with a top suit, see the Rolex. I need him back. I need to see him hitting the old red sauce and pasta there, man, during the games. But yeah, it'll be an interesting one. The Jets have obviously had a revamp. They've had a real push to obviously get the UK fans going again. Obviously, that's UK's been assigned to the Jets as well, and they're doing everything they can to obviously grow that sort of fan kingdom in the UK. So again, I'm looking forward to them. But listen, that Sao
That's the
Paulo
one.
game. Oh my God. That's the game.
The Jets Vikings. Look, Sao Paulo. We've known about the teams for a while now, and the Eagles Packers. It's going to be a
Yeah.
9:15 kickoff local time, which puts it in finishing around about quarter past midnight. I mean, Brazil has no legislation on the kind of nighttime laws of snow sport after what, like 10:30, 11 o'clock or whatever that we have in the UK. The atmosphere noise, that doesn't matter whatsoever. If it's midnight in Sao Paulo, we want extra time. We're going till 1 a.m. that night to get this game done. That's going to be incredible. But I do think Jets Vikings, if only we had Kirk Cousins at the Vikings, this would be a what was the phrase they used to use on one of the America's games? It's like it's a 5-star matchup because we're in it. That was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in the day when they went to the Super Bowl. That would, to me, be a bit of a 5-star matchup because the Jets are in it. Would elevate the Vikings Jets game over the top even more. But
Yeah.
no. Unfortunately, it's another rookie QB. We're going to see a lot of the rookie QBs basically this year. The Patriots, the Vikings, and of course the Bears coming across to London. We're going to get a good look
Yeah.
at these young guys coming into the city of London, taking on an exciting Jags team. I've been high on the Jags for the
Yeah.
last couple of years. I'm not sure Trevor Lawrence is the guy, but he could win a Super Bowl with the right package put around him in the NFL for sure. I love Travis Etienne. I love that receiver core that the Jags have had and built on. And who doesn't love Josh Allen? So, I mean, he's a wrecking ball on defense. So the Jags twice, back-to-back games again at Tottenham and Wembley against a Patriots team that's again in rebuild mode. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. We have to kind of stick with that. That's fine. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of intrigue around these games because you're looking at the Jets as a Super Bowl contender, the Jags as a playoff contender, and then rookie QBs for the other three teams that are going to be playing in London. But as you say, Sao Paulo just gets the cream of the crop with that Packers Eagles game. Week one as well, the first ever Friday
I
night game in
know.
the NFL.
Insane, insane, and this is the thing. We've seen a lot of like the schedule changes. Obviously, yeah, we've got this the week one, the Christmas games, obviously that are being shown. Obviously, Roger Goodell's obviously alluded to what he wants to do, sort of the master plan of having extra games, and then eventually it landing on a 3-day weekend, obviously in the States for the Super Bowl. So it's going to be big, and obviously with Netflix now announcing that obviously the games, Christmas Day games, are going to be on Netflix. Like, I mean, everything is happening, right? That is insane, and that's great for people. I think.
Is that in the UK? Is that in the US only, or is that both? Because the
I'm
Netflix
gonna,
USA thing,
yeah.
I thought Sky had the deal that they have all the games basically. You can pretty much watch any game that you want to on Game Pass, except for the ones that Sky show. But Sky have the Thursday, the Sunday 6, the Sunday 9:30, the Sunday night football, and the Monday night football. And that would include, I would assume, Christmas Day. So I'd be interested to find out if anybody can let us know. I only briefly had a quick look at it. I couldn't see whether it was the UK or the US only for those
Hmm.
Netflix Christmas Day games. And if it is Netflix, can we have Tom Brady doing the announcement because he's stepping into the broadcast booth this season? But can we have him, like, I don't know, let's get an established commentator like Iron Eagle, Tom Brady, and then Nikki Glazer, who roasted the living daylights out of him on that Netflix roast of
Oh
Tom
my
Brady.
God, it is
So,
so
so
good.
everything that Brady says, Nikki Glazer can just like slam him down with another like weird joke or something like that. That would be my preferred Netflix lineup for an NFL broadcast.
I'm trying to see. I can't see anything yet that says whether it's the UK or just the US. But maybe with, I mean, the fact that they had Tom Brady on there, Netflix have been really pushing sort of sport content, sport documentaries. I've seen a lot of American football sort of content leading towards Netflix. So you never know. But um, I'm not going to get into the Tom Brady roast other than it was amazing. But he obviously has had some regrets, but it was honestly amazing. I recommend anyone to go and watch that. You know what? Even if you don't really know Tom Brady, there's some really good comical moments in there. So yeah, definitely give that a watch.
Yeah, it's a good laugh if you don't know Tom Brady. It's a great laugh if you do know who Tom Brady is. That's for sure. Just skip over like Randy Moss and Kim Kardashian. They weren't great. The Robert Kraft stuff got a bit weird as well because
And
I think
Ben
Kraft
Affleck,
had a few too many. Oh yeah, Ben Affleck's one was really odd because he just started going on about haters online and then didn't really
weird,
tell any jokes. And you're like, oh, okay, Ben,
weird.
this seems to be you saying it's about Brady, but kind of seems more like about you than anybody else. So
Yeah,
we'll just let you do your five
I needed
minutes.
more like Dunkin' Donut like jokes or
Yeah,
something out of him because he did that commercial with him. But yeah, it just didn't come. So I was a bit like, okay, Ben, yeah, you're only getting away with this because you're Ben Affleck, but you need to now leave the stage. But yeah,
yeah,
no,
and and,
it
and
was a
lay
good
off the
laugh.
Ozempic as well, Ben. Lay off the Ozempic a bit because that jawline was getting weirdly like gaunt almost, even though he's quite jacked. I didn't get it. Yeah, I'm worried about Ben. Can we put a plea out? Just check that Ben Affleck's okay because he didn't seem to be handling himself very well on that Netflix night. That's for sure. What
Amazing.
about what about Hard Knocks, mate? We get to go behind the scenes with the New York Giants this year. Is that
I'm
is
loving
that
it. I'm loving
interesting?
it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm loving it because we can see the implosion firsthand before it even starts. So it's amazing. Uh, it's yeah. Listen, I love it. I've taken enough heat from certain Giants fans, so actually now I can be pointing a finger, going, "Oh, you guys do that, do you?" So it will be interesting to obviously to watch. Listen, you know what? Regardless of the team, I love these sorts of things because you get to really see what is going on behind the scenes, within reason. I'm sure there's stuff that they do miss out, but you get to see a real story. And I think it's another reminder to people that these guys are humans as well. So the stakes are made, emotions are high, and I think people get to see it. But yeah, I'm enjoying that it's going to be the Giants this year. I really am, and it's the great year for it as well. So, but I think something big will happen during this part of filming as well. So yeah, I can imagine it'll be a blockbuster one for sure. But hopefully we'll see some tears as well as some smiles during this
Oh,
during the
with the
filming.
Giants this coming season, it's guaranteed there'll be some tears somewhere. Don't worry about that. There'll be someone will be crying, and hopefully it's a mutual friend of ours more than anybody else that will be in tears at some point. But
Yes.
the thing with Hard Knocks, right, is so my girlfriend has just got into the NFL over the last few years. You kind of have to if you're dating me, unfortunately. And she's got family in Miami. She's a Dolphins fan. Obviously, Hard Knocks last year was the Dolphins. And after watching 2 episodes of it, we were both like, man, Miami's probably going to win this thing because the way they cut it, and
Get hyped.
every shot is a beautiful slow motion ball over the top with either an immaculate reception or interception, depending on who they're covering that week and who they're highlighting. And you're like, oh yeah, this team is going to win the NFL. It's going to be easy as well. This is Super Bowl bound, Lombardi, name on the trophy, because it sucks you in that way. And then you get into
Yeah.
reality and like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, everybody else is doing this stuff too. Oh, all right, yeah, maybe I got a little bit overzealous at that point. But it's also Dolphins one is the first one I've not actually finished watching in a number of years because it was too focused on the key protagonists. And I think the Jets one was a bit the
Mm.
same. Like the Jets one was just like an Aaron Rodgers documentary, which fair enough. It was the biggest story of the time,
Yeah.
rightfully so to some extent. But yeah, I was just a bit like, I actually kind of want to focus on the outliers, the guys that are on the
Mm.
bubble, the mistakes that get made by the rookies. Those are the people that I get
Yeah.
really invested in their stories. And maybe it's different for different people who are more or less involved and interested in the NFL. But I don't need to see Tyreek Hill talking about how like he loves his family and he's done all this and all that kind of stuff when definitely after like the number of indiscretions that Tyreek Hill has had off the field with that sort of thing.
Mm.
I want to see the guy who's on special teams and gets 5, 6 snaps a preseason game to make an impression
Yeah.
to try and keep his job.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Hard Knocks that it brings to the forefront.
I've enjoyed that. I mean, obviously, I've seen the All or Nothing as well. You know, both of them have this sort of way of sort of documenting each team. And what I actually like is when you see some of the business side of it, and you see the unfortunate side where people get called and hey, I think it was actually when it was the Rams. I think the way just McVay like handled people getting cut, they walk in the door, they sit down, and they say, "Hey man, we're cutting you." Like, there's no like beat around the bush. It's cutting you. Wish you all the best. Good luck. Done.
Mm,
And it's like showing people it's a business and NFL not for long. You know, it's one of those
yeah.
like let's just show people that. And I think it's actually I enjoy that. No, sorry, let me rephrase this. I'm not saying I'm enjoying people getting cut, but
You
it's actually
horrible,
just showing
horrible
people.
man.
I know, yeah, brutal. But yeah, I enjoy like that moment for people to actually see what it's like and actually what the players go through. And like you said, whether it's that person that's just got like he's had like 2 snaps all year, but he's still putting in the work and the dedication that goes into that as well. You know even what the kickers doing the long snap and things like that. It's actually like it's awesome to watch, even through to the boys and girls in the cafeteria. Show people who are
Mm,
at work because what I find amazing. Is actually how many people are involved in an NFL organization. The back office and everything that gets involved at that point to even just the logistics people, like moving people around from state to state or even to an international game. So I'd like to see a bit more of that for sure, sort of behind the scenes. But I love this. Even if you are seeing some of the big names, it is good to see. It's good to see some of the personalities as well. But yeah, let's see how this one goes with the Giants. Obviously, with no Saquon in there as well. What's that locker room going to look like?
yeah, where's he? Oh, yeah, yeah, that's where Saquon is now. Yeah, I
I
almost
had to
forgot,
drop it.
except for the
I had
fact
to
I've been
just sprinkle a
smiling.
little bit.
We will get to see Saquon in an international game this year. It will just be in Brazil when he's winning football games this year. But that would be great for him. Just quickly, actually, I don't know if you noticed this
Yeah.
NFL news as well earlier in the week, Sam. Before we move away from the gridiron,
Mm.
um, Lambeau Field, one of the only open air stadiums left in the NFL now, truly open air, and it's the way they've built around the original stadium is quite incredible, and it's this beautiful mix of old and new.
Mm.
They're reintroducing smoking in the stadium. you're going to be allowed to smoke in Lambeau Field because it's open air and considered outside. And it's going to be the only NFL stadium that you can have a cigarette in if you want to, which the Packers have got this like weird, just throwback feel to them all the time anyway. I think it's in part because there's been like so few
Mm.
starting quarterbacks over the years for the Packers. The logo never changes, the lid never changes, the jersey is always the same. They're not rebranding every three
Yeah.
seconds with a new logo, new uniform. Just quickly, the number of new uniforms coming out, the majority of them look terrible. Just
Mm.
go back to what was good, like late 90s, early 2000s jerseys for 90% of these teams. But I digress. But the Packers bringing back smoking. Lambeau Field is regressing into a proper old school again. It's already got the bleachers, no proper seating. You're going to be there
Mm.
with a beer and a cigarette, huddled in the freezing cold, going through a 20 pack on a playoff night with stress and lighting a cigarette just to keep yourself warm.
Whoa,
This
whoa,
might be
whoa! Did you say
this might be
playoff night?
the
Did you say playoff night? Playoff?
they're going to be in the
No.
playoffs. They'll
Steady,
be in the playoffs,
steady.
man. This is I quite like. I will never say I love, even though it'd be a great pump. I quite like this Packers side. It's young, it's vibrant, it's got a lot of depth still. It's got some good leaders and people like Jair Alexander. It's got an exciting young quarterback. Look, this is a good Packers team that's definitely in with a shout of making the playoffs this year. But yeah, I don't know about you. I kind of love this just going into the throwback feel of Lambeau even more. And yeah, just a 20 pack of Marlboro Reds
Yeah.
is just gone in a 3 hour game. It's really weird. And it goes against the grain of everything because smoking is so kind of looked down. I mean, I don't smoke personally, but it's so looked down upon in society now
Of
anyway.
course.
It's not a common thing at all. So for an NFL team to announce that you can smoke in Lambeau, it's just weirdly great for some reason. I'm not sure why.
I, I'm not a fan of it. I got to say, like it's been a blessing not having smoking in stadiums. I got to say, but hey, if they're trying to make it as horrible as possible, so for any visiting fans, as it were, that's one way to go about it. That's for sure. But it's very much a throwback
visiting
for them
visiting teams
to do
running
that.
out of the locker room and they're getting like old fag butts chucked on them as they walk their way
I
out
know,
to add to the intimidation factor.
grim, so grim, so grim. Yeah, not a fan of that.
Uh,
Yeah, I gotta say, but good luck, good luck.
it's the weirdest policy move in stadiums that I've seen in ages. I've seen in ages.
Yeah.
Uh, can we talk quickly about a stadium that looks great and then is quite seemingly a disaster zone right now?
Yeah,
Unless
go for it,
unless you
mate. We
like
can
the
it.
unless you like the new water feature at Old Trafford. I mean, it's beautiful. They've really just lent into being more than just a football
They,
club. It's a great fountain they've got almost in
it's
the
a mess.
lobby of the pitch. It's fantastic. Like,
It's a mess. There was some footage of some leaks potentially in some changing rooms as well as through the stadium. Listen, Man United fans have been talking about it for a long time about the Glazers, right? And part of it was the reason they're blaming them for the performances on the field. Now, I never agreed with that. I ultimately, every manager has been back. They've spent money. I think ultimately that's down to the culture of the players, and we will get onto another team about culture of failure and another team in the Premier League in a minute. But
who can you be
ultimately
talking about?
that. Yeah, I wonder. But I think when you look at it like this, that's where the Glazers have gone wrong. You know, that Old Trafford is iconic. It was like the stadium people wanted to play at.
Mm.
Growing up, whether you were a Man United fan or not, if you were playing at Old Trafford, you were like, "I've made it." That was the special place for any football player. The young players that used to come through Manchester United at Carrington, walking onto that field at Old Trafford, looking around at the stadium, you're like, even if I never play a game again, wow, that was the feature. Now, Old Trafford's not that stadium. Yes, it's iconic in name, but it is old. And when you've got one of your greats in Cristiano Ronaldo saying when he returned, like the weight room is the same weights that when I left, that nothing has changed. The staff's the same. The food that they serve is the same. Things haven't progressed in that way. That for me is the Glaziers and who potentially they've put in charge. to run the club, because whilst you're the owner, you're not hands on every day. You surely have hired certain personnel to tell you what needs to change and what needs to be improved. So being that fountain was sad, really, because it really puts a dampener on what is going on in Manchester at the moment, and really, I think they need to shape it up. They need to get that right. If you're not going to be making top four, if you're going to be finishing bottom of the Champions League when you do make it, and you're not winning championships, then take what we call the down year and the bit where you're having a proper rebuild, make it a proper rebuild. Do the stuff off the pitch first, get it right. I think that's where Man United are lacking at the moment. I feel like the fans might not totally agree with me in terms of saying, look, that maybe don't invest so much in the players right now. But why not? You do have a good youth set up. You've seen what, 4 or 5 of them play this season. Why don't you do that? Maybe invest a little bit, obviously, in certain players that you're going to need to replace the aging players, but go with youth, use a big investment on that stadium, get it right, rejuvenate Old Trafford a little bit. You have to.
I mean, let's think about the biggest sports franchises in the world right now. And I don't like the name franchise, the word franchise, really, when we talk about soccer and football, but it's a business at
Mm.
the end of the day. And you think about the biggest names across the globe, right? Dallas Cowboys, AT&T Stadium, it's Jerry World. It was, when it was built, one of the greatest stadiums in the world. It still is one of the best looking stadiums out there, I think, in terms of its design, except for having a big glass window that allows the sunshine in through one end, which is ludicrous. That wasn't too smart, Jerry. But it's a great stadium. It's modern. It's up to date. Fantastic facilities, and a little Eli Manning signature in a dressing room as well. You think about Real Madrid, what they've done now with the Bernabeu, which it's lost a lot of its heart, its soul, the history, perhaps, with this new kind of glossy metallic look. It makes it look more like an art museum from the outside than anything else. But inside as well, they've got an Atlanta Falcon style giant halo board, and you've seen people going in there this season going, "Wow, this is unbelievably big."
Hmm.
Barcelona knocking down the old stadium, whether you like it or not,
Hmm.
building this brand new stadium. We'll wait to see what the finished version looks like. But again, they're
Yeah.
upgrading and having an arena that is befitting of the name and the grandiose of that company and football team. The most
Hmm.
valuable sports teams in the world make sure that they have the best facilities. And
Yeah.
Manchester United clearly haven't done anything to invest like that. They've expanded in the corners, yes, and there was a period where they kept on expanding Old Trafford and keeping it within the same kind of framework of the stadium, keeping the iconic roof at either end and obviously down the side of the Sir Alex Ferguson stand. And it looked fantastic the way they were building it up and building it up. And you really had great hope that this would be able to maintain its kind of uniqueness and
Mm.
the original foundations of what has been a football stadium that's seen one of the rises of one of the greatest footballing sides in English football. You look at United through the 90s and the early 2000s, there are very few teams that can match that sort of success and have arguably the most iconic manager in the Premier League during that generation. And
Hmm.
now, since Ferguson's gone, it is a football team that's crumbled on the pitch, and it's now a stadium that's crumbling off the pitch. And it is
Yeah.
just sad. It's more than anything
It's
else, it's sad because the fans are being done dirty. The state of the water running through the stands, it's a health hazard, it's a safety
yeah.
hazard, and it's
Yeah.
it's it's just plain embarrassing. It's like a giant aquarium exploded and was
Yeah.
running down through the stands.
Scary.
And
Scary.
it kind of, to me, in some way sums up the whole situation of United, is that there's an attempt to put on a flashy gloss. In the end, it's all just going to break down. And actually, when you look at it properly and you give it a bit of time, it's not good enough. It's not great. And it's nowhere near able to compete with the best around the world and around European football right now. And
How do they come?
that's
How do they come
unfortunately what you
back?
get.
How do they come? Okay, what's scary for Man United? And this is where, listen, I'm an Arsenal fan. We had those. I think we finished back to back eighth, didn't we? And I think we had a nasty little. Maybe was it 11th or something like that. We finished, and obviously we've had that rebuild. But you saw work happening. On the field, off the field. Certain people were maybe moved on from their roles. Someone else came in with a vision, and we took those sort of the banter years, as it were. But we've seen some progression. Um, and listen, regardless of whether we win the league or not, we are hitting the final game of the season, and we still do have a chance to win. We could mathematically win the win the title still. So there's progression. I don't see Man United in that position right now for a while. Not when you've got Aston Villa who've now made the Champions League, and there's an owner there that understands what you need to do. He's quite open with fans. He showed that when he sold Jack Grealish, and the work that they're doing. He's probably trying to get them in a certain place where they can expand Villa Park when they're ready potentially. You've got you've seen the likes of Brighton making a transition to become a team that's regular in Europe. Even West Ham have gone and made strides to progress. Man United are going completely other way, and there's not any form of move to suggest that they're going to do that. Even Chelsea, if you look at the trajectory at the end of the season, where Chelsea are, I didn't think they were going to make Europe, and they've suddenly made themselves in a position where actually the owner's gone, okay, maybe made a few mistakes, but we're going to make certain adjustments, and they're looking to expand their stadium or potentially knock down Stamford Bridge to start again and put something again in that place. I worry for Man United, I really do. Listen, I have banter with the London Man United fans, as it were, the southern Man United contingent of Manchester, but they're not going to see those days. They're not going to see them Alex Ferguson days for a very, very long time. I can't see where it's gonna change. And next season's a real worry. I, I don't I don't see Man United finishing in Europe next season. That's as far as I'd go with that right now. I just don't see them in Europe.
Well, they might not this year.
Yeah.
I mean, let's think about it. Like, obviously, the FA Cup might give them a berth into continental football and everything, but like the Premier League table is getting away from them at quite a dramatic rate. Obviously, going into the last weekend of the season coming up, and it has been this year so far. The attitude stinks throughout every single aspect of that club, from what I can tell. Obviously, I don't have an inside anywhere in terms of behind the scenes at Manchester United. All I'm going with is what I see from newspapers and what I see on the football pitch. And we've seen so many times this season, United players, clips being highlighted of them literally not trying, not moving off the ball, not attempting to get possession back, giving up on it. That's a problem that not only comes from Eric Ten Hag potentially, but also comes from the atmosphere around the club in general. If you're going into a stagnating weights room and facilities every single day, that's the same that it's been ever since you were there, the excitement goes. And I'm not saying we need to treat athletes like puppies and be like, look, another shiny thing or anything like that. They're grown men. They should be doing their job. And that attitude also stinks in general as a player if you're not trying at all. But you need to do something. And if it means building a few brand new facilities at the club for a club that is now purely just selling its name and badge more than anything else and not putting any investment back into football or into off-field facilities. You need to strip down and re-renovate managerially and in the boardroom at this point.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's such a big job.
Is it going to come? Is it going to come though? The Glazers don't look like they're going to do that.
A bad attitude is, it's like an infection, isn't it? Because once it gets into a dressing room or a boardroom or wherever, once you let standards slip, and fair play to Sir Alex Ferguson, he was a hard bastard, but he didn't let standards slip at all. Not until he walked out of that football stadium was like, I'm done now. Everybody, from the moment he took over to the moment that he left, said it was always the same. You don't do this, you don't do that. You're not on your phone in the dressing room. You're not caring about X, Y, and Z. You're focused in on the football game and the football game alone. And that probably doesn't fly anymore, but that's kind of what needs to happen at this point. Maybe not as strict as Ferguson was, but the standards need to get reset. A bit like the New York Jets did. The New York Jets was torrid as an organization. It was discussed from anybody that left that team that from top to bottom, on the field and off the field, there was just this kind of laziness about the Jets, it's been said. And this idea of like, well, we're the Jets, we've got a big name, but like, whatever, give a damn. We're in the NFL now. If it's the players, like, yeah, I'm playing the NFL. I'm getting paid. I'm just here to get paid.
Yeah.
That's what Manchester United have. And it's taken a complete rebuild, brand new head coach, changes off the field. Obviously, bringing in people like Aaron Rodgers, bringing in exciting youngsters like Sauce Gardner to kind of revamp and re-energize, and getting rid of a number of players that were considered super negative for the locker room. United need to do that. And I don't think you can afford to in the Premier League at this point do that because you're starting from like mid to lower part of the table if
What
United have to do
leaders are
that.
there though, Ollie? What leaders are there? I don't want to get too much into Man United, but it worries me. You talk about those days of Fergie. Like whilst Fergie was, uh, you know, was major Sir Alex Ferguson, he had lieutenants and captains in that dressing room. He didn't need to do anything. He came
Yeah.
in when he came in at the very end, but he knew. I'm talking Steve Bruce, Pallister. You talk about Roy Keane. You talk about Paul Ince, Irwin. I mean, even Bex, who was the pretty boy, still had captain, sort of
Hmm.
attributes and stuff like that. So for me, it's like they, they haven't got that. There is in that changing room right now. Fernandez wears that armband because he's the only one that could potentially wear that armband. He shouldn't be anywhere near a captain's armband for me in a side of the stature of Man United. He should just be the game mate, the game winner, the one that can make things happen, and we leave him to do that. He shouldn't be worrying about um, captaining a side. That's where they're
Well,
at the moment. That's where they're at the moment as well.
shouldn't it be a Marcus Rashford type who's come through the club? I mean, I don't want to lay this at Rashford's door because I don't think it's necessarily, his fault, his problem. I think it's just the problem with being a part of Manchester United from young to this point in his career of, he's ingrained in this club where the standards have slipped so much compared to
Hmm.
what they were.
Hmm. Mm.
But you would look at Marcus Rashford and go, this should be a kid that is like, I will die on the pitch for this club.
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah,
Hyperbolic maybe, but I will run myself into the ground because I have been through thick and thin with Manchester United, and I wear this badge not just because I've been bought or because I wanted to play for United when I was younger, but because I am a part of this club,
yeah.
and that's the most worrying thing. That if a player like him who's come through it doesn't have that drive and desire to win for his club like that we've seen on a couple of occasions this year, when he's had so much potential when he first burst on the scene. And you thought, oh, maybe this is the guy that's going to kind of carry the mantle of great United youngsters that have been leaders for this team. It again, it's just another point to
Well,
reference of that shows how far it's all slipped.
who gave him his
Because that
debut?
should
Was it Van Gaal? That Louis Van Gaal, I think, gave. Was it
maybe
2000? Yeah. So I mean, it, I'm going to say this: they've had some good managers. Louis Van Gaal was a good manager, but wasn't allowed to maybe set his standards. People thought he was too hard nosed. Very good tactician, but I think by then it already crept in. Like Daddy had left the
mm,
room, which was Sir Alex Ferguson. All of these like bad habits. He was like the substitute teacher, Van Gaal. Do you know what I mean? It didn't matter how you were
yeah.
coming in; it wasn't going to work. And this is ultimately the same thing that has happened and has been happening for such a long time at Tottenham. I'm going to say my piece as an Arsenal fan. People are going to be, "Oh, you're an Arsenal fan," so I'll let you obviously like finish with this one. But we've now seen Jose Mourinho say that's the one club I've never been able to connect with the fans with because ultimately the owner didn't really want to push for trophy, sacked him before the cup final. Jose Mourinho wins that,
Mm,
by the way. I think he wins that cup final. He's a specialist in that. Right. Cheers. Daniel Levy, thank you. So that's one less trophy that you guys can talk about that you don't have many anyway. You then have Conte, serial winner, and he comes out and says, "This is strange. People celebrating fourth place, celebrating mediocrity." And now you've got Big Ange, who looks like he's got some really clever ideas, has won things in the past, and now he's saying in his latest press conference, the last 48 hours have basically shown me that this essentially the club likes to roll over and get its belly tickled, and they don't care. You know, there's also a clip of him during the game shouting at a fan,
yeah.
like telling him, "What are you on about? Like you're talking about Arsenal. We're playing a game against Man City. If we don't win this game, we don't get Champions League." This, and that's what I'm sitting there going. I'm laughing. People, Tottenham fans are trying to laugh at Arsenal. You're not going to win the league. You're not going to win the league. I'm like, guys, are you listening to yourselves here? You just lost a game of football. You now have got no Champions League football, which then has a massive effect that you're not playing at the top stage. You can't get the players in that you potentially want. has an effect on the money that comes into the club as well as player attraction. You've got a manager now that's going, what have I signed up for? You know,
Mm.
what? What sort of mentality is that? I've tweeted us. I call it like a small loser mentality because that is kind of where you're putting yourselves at the moment. And they've let that creep in, creep in. It's now throughout the whole club. And everyone outside of the club can see it. So what are you? I'm seeing Son laughing and joking with Pep after the game. Now, no, I'm not. Well, I don't mind players joking and stuff like that, but because people do go a little bit too far of it. But when you look at that, it's like, Son, you just missed a chance of that was put it at 1-1, and you'd have still had a chance at the final. I think final day of the season to potentially get Champions League, and you're laughing and joking about it. But the fans are happy about it. What? I don't get it, Ollie. I don't understand how they've allowed that to happen. And we're talking about fantastic stadiums. Listen, that stadium is the best in the country. It's amazing. The way it's set up, people haven't even seen. You know what? People have only just seen the surface of that stadium. What is going on underneath and it like internally in that stadium? What they have, the facilities, is unbelievable. But it's going to waste right now if they're going to continue with this mentality. And I actually feel for Ange. I'm not going to try his surname, so I always get it wrong. But I'm going to call him Big Ange. So I kind of feel for him. He probably deserves a little bit better for sure.
I thought it was really interesting in Postacoglu, by the way, Sam.
Cheers, mate.
In his in his press conference, he was asked about is that outside of the uh, football field or on the football field, and he didn't specify, which I think shows that there are people, and you kind of touched on it with Son laughing and joking with Pep Guardiola, but I think it shows that he's kind of woken up to the idea that again, we're talking about attitudes inside sports teams that are inbred negativity and weak mindedness, as Postecoglou called it, being inside that dressing room. And I think I wouldn't say Tottenham didn't try to win yesterday. I would never
No.
say that. A friend of mine posed the question, did Son miss on purpose? And I don't think so. I think it's actually a fantastic save. A keeper closes down the angles superbly, really limits where Son can go with it. I think the best place would have been, as they'd say where you are, the 5-hole between the keeper's legs would have been the best place to go for Son, where he probably had the best chance to beat the keeper. But it was a really good job of closing down the angles very quickly. But
Yeah.
I can't disagree with what you're saying here about Tottenham. And it's such a shame. It is such a shame. I'd be embarrassed if I was a Spurs fan cheering for City. Because to me, going into that game, Tottenham had a free hit, right? If you
Yeah.
win, I mean, the worst outcome's a draw, without a doubt. A draw, you look a bit stupid either way because you might have gifted Arsenal the title and it doesn't really help you in your push for the top four and you don't get one over City. But if you win, you get to turn around to City and say, doesn't matter about Arsenal. We stopped you winning the title in a head-to-head game. We showed that on
Yeah.
this night, we're better than you and you're meant to win this title because let's face it, in football fans' opinions, you've cheated 115 times to get yourself to the record of Premier League titles that you've got at the moment. And we denied you that. You can't even cheat your way to this one because we were better than you tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And if they lose, yeah, okay, Arsenal don't get the Premier League title potentially. I mean, they still can, obviously, as you touched on. So you might as well go out and play for that victory. Have some personal pride, some pride in the club that you're playing for. You're not playing for Arsenal's Premier League title agenda. You're playing for Tottenham Hotspur. You're playing for one of the
Yeah.
biggest sides in English football, who's been granted one of the best facilities to play football in, who have been a side that have continued to grow and grow and grow, that have been now to a UEFA Champions League final, almost and probably could have won it that season if they had played to the peak of their powers, I still think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
You know what I
instead,
find?
you still have this ability to be sidetracked by your biggest rival as
Yeah.
supporters and be focused on that. That's such a like little brother sort of mentality, and that's why North
Poznan's
London's
in
red.
a Poznan's exactly Poznan's in a stadium when Man City scored. You know what? Actually, you know what? I'm not actually Son's miss uh was devastating. I was up on my feet thinking this is it. He's gonna slot this. I actually thought he was gonna go to the keeper's left when I looked at it, he normally likes that sort of bending around. I thought he would go for that. He didn't really get a good enough connection for the finish that he tried. I was actually more annoyed that watching Romero, who normally nails every single player known to man and goes in for tackles that he really shouldn't. He goes in half-hearted against Phil Foden, like, and then it just runs and just unopposed and is able to start that attack. That one was the one that really bothered me actually the most. Did Tottenham go out and try and win? I actually thought Tottenham were a better side in the first half. I thought they were unlucky, maybe not to take a couple of chances. Kuleveski, let me try and say that right. Obviously came on obviously for Tottenham. He was a bright spark. I thought Ange done all the right subs actually. I thought he was quite good. I just think that the stadium was not rocking enough to get behind that team to go and because it was a promising game. But it was like I think there was a divide of fans that were going, "Oh no, we're playing well here," and they weren't really getting behind it. It was like, yeah, that was the bit that was mental to me. Like that was
So
the
odd.
atmosphere there wasn't good. And you know what? You talk about trying to stop them because of the charging and stuff. Man City and Tottenham were building actually a bit of a rivalry here because Tottenham were kind of had Man City's number and that whole game in the Champions League, Lucas Moura and all that sort of stuff. They were building this little bit, but you don't want to get in a rivalry all of a sudden. As I said, you rolled over and got your belly tickled. You just built something. Now you've just gone back to the whipping boys again. There was all these memes. Tottenham are going to have this big say on the championship decider who was going to be crowned champions because they had to play basically Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City practically back to back. They didn't win a single game. Not a single game did they win. They didn't have any sort of say in it at all. They've just shown actually again the small club that they are, and they need to get out of that. It's I I don't know how I couldn't be a Tottenham fan for that reason. Set aside me being an Arsenal fan, I want to be part of a team that it hurts when you lose, and
Mm.
even if you got no say in it, we want to cause a problem. And even if it meant Tottenham were probably going to win a trophy potentially or beat top four. There's not a point ever that Arsenal roll over. They always go out and try and get 3 points or try and win a game in a cup competition. So that needs to change. I don't think Son missed intentionally. I really don't. But I definitely expect more. But listen, if they had that mentality, if they had the right mentality, I don't think Harry Kane would have left either. I really don't. I think
Mm.
he
Well,
knew this wasn't the place for him.
maybe not Bayern either, considering what he's brought. He's brought that Tottenham nature of lack of titles to one of the
Eric
greatest
Dyer as
sides in
well.
Germany. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Eric
Eric
Dyer.
Dyer as well. Don't put
Maybe,
it all on Harry.
yeah, that might be a lot of that. Actually, might be on Eric Dyer's shoulder. Harry turned up, and Eric was like following with a little trolley of Tottenham uselessness, and was like, "Hey guys, look what I brought!" Yeah, little happy go lucky fella, just keen to be there and be involved. Although in fairness, he's played quite well in Germany this year. Eric Dyer, he's had a bit of a resurgence, and I've always had a soft spot for him. Just quickly, let's move on
Yes.
after this, Sam. But very quickly, as an Arsenal fan, next season, if City win, and
Yeah.
to be honest, I think West Ham could still do something against City on the final day of the season because Moyes is in a position where he doesn't care. He's leaving the club. Go for broke. We'll take the game to
Yeah.
you. Who gives a damn? And
Yeah.
West Ham are kind of riding that wave of like, cheers, David, for doing what you've done. And it'd be
Yeah.
actually kind of fitting if Moyes does that and helps hand Arsenal the title. But if Arsenal don't win the title this weekend,
Mm.
and Tottenham fans come up to you next season and go, we stopped you winning the Premier League. Do you see it as they stopped you winning the Premier League, or do you see it like to
Nah.
me? If that was me, I'd be like, it's a shrug emoji. Like, good for you. Like, you've
Nah.
got nothing. Like,
But no, they didn't. They didn't because we won our game. We won the game before. We gave up the title at Villa. Ultimately, we needed to win that game. The home game, we should be winning that. Winning that game. It was Villa that stopped us. It's Aston Villa that stopped us winning the league. We've lost one game since January. Insane. That's that. That's what Man City have been doing for the last 4 seasons. When it got to that business end, to lose one game. If someone said, "Hey, you lost one game from January," and someone went on to win every game, as it were, or didn't lose a single game and won the league, you'd be like, there's not a lot more you can do, is there? Really, like you've done everything you can. Liverpool. Talk about Liverpool. So what did Liverpool? Who cost Liverpool then? Because Liverpool dropped points, multiple points throughout this running because it was three in the running. It got down to two real quick. So uh, Tottenham fans, I'm just laughing at you. I find it funny. I'm literally laughing at you. You're on the other side of the glass, basically laughing, looking in, laughing. You're not going to be in a title. They're not going to be in a title race for a very long time. You know, that's the reality of it. Liverpool about to change a manager and probably still be involved in it. Arsenal will probably again still be involved in it. Man City, no doubt, dodge 115 charges, will be back in it again next season. And then I'm sure there'll be someone else that will push on again. Will Tottenham be there? No, I actually worry that they won't be again in the top four again next season because Villa are only going to kick on. Look at what Villa have done. The attraction of players like you look at Leon Bailey that they've brought in. You know, Diaby, that level of player. That's going to be standard. That's the foundations. He's going to be able to attract another set of players. He will be able to nitpick a couple of players from the Premier League because they're going to be in the Champions League. I think they're in a better position than what Newcastle were. So Tottenham can joke as much as they like. I, I'm smiling for you because if you want to create another DVD as you do normally that about this game that says you stopped Arsenal win their league, fair play. You can say that Arsenal didn't win anything again this season. No problem. We'll go again in the Champions League. We will reinvest, and no doubt a trophy will come soon enough. But I'm just, yeah, gutted for the fact that they didn't get a result yesterday. But ultimately, as I said, there's still one more game to go. I've seen, honestly, stranger things happen on the last day of a Premier League season. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, up the irons.
Yeah, you're taking the Tottenham shirt off and putting on a West Ham shirt. So you're still all the same Arsenal fans, just jumping around, whatever suits your needs. It's disgusting, Sam. It's disgusting. Just quickly, then, I know we're running out of time because I think we've hit the hour mark almost already. But
No doubt. Yeah.
we got the PGA Championship coming up, one of the four majors, obviously this weekend. Rory McIlroy getting a victory at Quail Hollow in the Wells Fargo in the PGA Tour last weekend, which is like the perfect way to suddenly have Rory firing on all cylinders and then coming
Always.
into a major. That's what you want. You've got Brooks Koepka's won recently on Live. You've got Scotty Scheffler has won the Masters and been tearing up the PGA Tour this year. Just become a father, hasn't played in 3 weeks. How will that affect him? And then you have Rory
Yeah.
having a big win at the Wells Fargo. Obviously, he had that victory as well in the combined event at the Zurich Classic. I think it is in the with Shane Lowry a few weeks ago as well. So his stock is trending, I think people would say. So this is coming together of potentially the three best golfers in the world, all about a meet at Valhalla for what could be a very special major
Yeah.
indeed coming up. I'm gonna be glued to this one for the whole weekend, mate. I'm sorry. There's so many other sports going on.
Big.
I'll catch the Premier League in the morning here, but then it will be golf all afternoon because this could get really spicy indeed, man. Really
100%.
spicy. And
I'm looking forward to it, mate. Rory's. I'm glad to see Rory doing well, mate. It's nice because we spoke about it in the Masters, didn't we? You know what he was going to do, and we are a bit worried about whether he knew what he needed to do to go out and win a tournament. So that was nice to see him obviously put a win up ahead of this.
but the other news about Rory McIlroy, I don't know if you saw it. Wins on Sunday. Boom. I'm getting divorced Monday. How do I celebrate? I'm going single again. I mean, Rory, and somebody made a point of 2014 when he won his last major. Was it like a week before that he broke it off with Wozniacki or something like that? I can't remember.
Pretty
Apparently,
close. I think it's pretty
he
close.
yeah. So this is like Rory will do whatever needs to be done to win. It seems to break the major drought. Personal life, I'm chucking it out of the window at this point. I'm all in on ending this run of majors. You got to kind of admire it. Yeah, it's just going to be great. Look, we can't predict too much in golf because there's so many high caliber golfers playing right now. And you look at Tommy Fleetwood's season this season, Ludwig Orber coming through as well. Perhaps both of them could be in a shout at Valhalla this week. Obviously, Tiger is going to be playing. He's taken the free exemption that he gets And as a spot, apparently he's going to be paired with Mickelson as well, going out on the Thursday, which should be kind of cool to see two greats. And it'll be the biggest crowd that
Mhm.
Mickelson has had since he left the PGA, because barely anybody decides to watch him since he's gone to live. With Tiger, at least there'll be some people watching him. And the other news out of the PGA, just quickly, Jimmy Dunn resigning from the PGA Tour's policy board. Now, he was brought in to be kind of the business mind to arrange the agreement between the Saudi PIF and the PGA in that attempt to combine the two tours after all this animosity. He was the one that brought an end to the kind of the legal sanctions against players going off to live. He's resigned, saying that it's the players now on the PGA policy board that are preventing these two tours from joining, because
Mm.
the PGA wants to get it done from a business point of view, but there's seemingly too much player power now with the PGA tour policy board, because I'm only assuming here, feel completely aggrieved that they didn't get the chance to go to live, or they stayed loyal to the PGA Tour, and then they don't want people from live coming back after they've had their money and being able to join up and play again in the big PGA Tour events. And it's now a point where we thought it was the PGA Tour that were kind of ruining golf, of having this big split, and it puts more emphasis on the majors where all these great golfers can come together from both tours. And now it seems like it's just kind of the players being not bad eggs. I can imagine you'd feel aggrieved if you saw somebody like Dustin Johnson going off, getting paid a load of money, and then getting able to walk back 3 years later. But for the good of the game, and surely what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like, if you get everybody back playing on PGA Tour events and the PIF involved, the money's only going to go up. The audiences are going to go up. The TV revenue is going to go up. And that
Go up,
trickles down
yeah.
to you directly as a player in winnings.
You know what though? I think it's the timeline. We need to get the timeline right, because that's the bit that I need to try and put together. Liv comes along, tries to offer all these players big money. Do that at that point? Is it the PGA? No, no, no. Stay with us. Stay loyal. Stay with the holy grail, as it were, which is the PGA. Okay, everyone at the PGA, like your Rory and Tigers, yeah, we'll stay loyal to you because you've been loyal to us, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about the money, we've earned enough. Then there's obviously guys like, well, I don't earn that much, or how can I turn this down? This is like generational money that we spoke about. So they've then gone off. So now Tiger, Rory, and those that have obviously stayed, they feel good about themselves. They've got like clean, like no devil on the shoulder or anything like that. The PGA now turn around and go, we're trying to get a deal done here. Yeah, actually, we will get the live involved, blah, blah, blah. As a player, you're not going to be like, hold up. You told us that was a devil's work over there. You told us to stay loyal to us. We've turned down this money and, blah, blah, blah. And now you're trying to get a deal done and we won't get the money. You won't get you will get money, but not that amount of money. I'd probably kick
Yeah.
up a fuss.
Well,
If that's how the timeline is, I'd be like that.
well, that's kind of what it is with the way that the PGA dropped the announcement of the attempted unifying of the two tours a year ago, kind of around about this time over the summer, to be honest. And that's why Rory McIlroy changed his tune from being like lives terrible, to being like, oh, I'm kind of like a sacrificial lamb out here now, in that I've stood by the PGA through all this, and then they go behind our backs as players and announce that they're
Mhm.
actually trying to join them all together. Yeah, I'd be really annoyed, because Rory McIlroy was probably offered, I don't want to think how much money he was offered by Liv if they came to him, to be honest. And that's 100% to me why John Rahm has gone across to Liv, because Rahm has seen the light of, well, I can go and get this big payday from Liv. And the PGA are working with Liv now to get everybody back together. So I'm going to be able to kind of have my cake and eat it as well. I'll be able to go and
Yeah.
get a big payday from Liv, play on that for a bit, and then I'll come back. And Rahm even said this week in a press conference that he is still a PGA Tour player. It's not like he's been kicked off the PGA Tour. He's still got a PGA Tour license. He's just suspended because he's playing for Liv, so he can't enter the events, etc. So he still considers himself a PGA Tour player. And there are a number of these guys at Liv that are saying the right things like that, which will ingratiate them back into the PGA fold. No, oh, I was always a PGA Tour player. They just suspended me because I went to Live. No, I always wanted to defend my titles. I always wanted to be the golfer playing on the PGA Tour. I was just given this generational wealth opportunity with Live. I couldn't turn it down for my family. It's a perfect narrative if you're John Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton and
100%.
people like that. The difference is you've got people like Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, etc., who haven't made that move to live and are going, well, I haven't done that. I've probably missed my opportunity now, maybe to do that. Or if it does come around, it's not going to be as much as say the first people to venture out into the new world, so to speak. I won't be reaping the rewards as much. And is there any point? Because now I'll annoy the PGA Tour for a very potentially brief spell with Live and PGA being against each other until they all come together. So wouldn't I rather just be in the good books of the PGA Tour? They've had this huge investment this year as well already by a conglomerate that have joined together to inject another few hundred million into the PGA Tour to raise the prize money, raise the money that's given out for the players that have the biggest impact on social media, which is, Rory McIlroy made 14, 15 million off that last year because he was mentioned so many times on social media. So they think, well, I might as well just keep it divided and I'll get a huge chunk of the pie over there. I mean, Justin Thomas is talking about we should have a golf all-star weekend where we all get together and all the golfers, the best golfers in the world, can come together and play. And all I'm thinking is Justin Thomas wants an all-star bonus to go along with the fact that he's getting paid millions for doing okay in these competitions. He's struggling at the moment in golf in his performances on the course. So having an all-star weekend, he feels he might get in by reputation alone and then get a big piece of the pie once more. When actually we have all-star weekends. It's called the PGA Championship, the Open, the Masters, and the US Open, because that's when all these golfers come and play their best golf against each other at the highest level. It's just reeking of greed. The players suddenly have gone from being like quite almost relatable. Ian Poulter was always like, good laugh, seemed like a decent bloke, also amazing at golf. Lee Westwood, the same. Tommy Fleetwood still has that and very much is like the everyman's golfer, so to speak. But there's sometimes just these things come out from the golfing world right now where you're losing so much heart because it's just destroying it for fans of the sport. And it's all based around golfers going, we need more. When it's not that popular a sport anyway. It's played more than it's watched. And I think golf has the biggest ratio of people that play golf who don't watch the sport than any other sport. People that watch football don't necessarily play football, but people that play football watch football. People that play basketball watch basketball. I know loads of golfers that couldn't give a damn what happens on the European Tour or the PGA Tour. Oh, by the way, there's also a European Tour that should be brought into this equation as well, because it's not just about America and that money. There's also the DP World Tour. It's getting ugly. And it's a shame it's come around this week because the PGA Championship's set to be incredible, mate. Set to be incredible.
It is. But you know what? I'm sure they will eventually marry back up. People will get paid and everyone will be happy again. And then it'll be someone else trying to take the whole, golfers elsewhere, or, it'll be some other gimmick. But I do feel for the lads that obviously stayed, that obviously did stay and turn out that money. But Rory, good luck on a divorce, mate. Good luck on a tournament, and hopefully you bring it all home, mate. You might need that live money, mate, after the divorce. But we'll see how good your solicitors were. But Ollie, mate, what a week! Well, what a week of sport, mate. There's been so much again.